Welcome to a new episode of New Normal Podcast. And if this is your first time, as always, thank you. My name is Andrew Mayer, and this podcast is about innovation, innovating on the internet, communications. I just keep changing that up. This interview took quite a bit of time for me to prepare for, and I was quite intimidated. I was pointed to Stephen Fitzgerald from Rodeo Adventure Labs, a cycling company that makes gravel bikes, hardcore gravel bikes, out in Denver, Colorado. I was pointed to Stephen by a previous guest back in April of this year, and this interview was in September. And this was a thing that I do with my guests, and so I went and checked them out on Instagram. You'll see and learn a bit about them. And I was immediately intimidated. Instagram was full of posts, articles, and photos and videos as well on their stories of owners around the world owning the Rodeo Labs bicycles and what they're doing with them. And I was just completely intimidated of how hardcore they are. So it took me a while to get up to speed to go and reach out to Stephen at Rodeo Labs. And I wrote to him on his website saying, I'd love to come cycle out to you and interview you for my podcast. And his response was, well, of course you would. So that was September, a couple weeks back when I was out in Colorado. So this was the third of 3 interviews that I did in the Colorado part of my US tour recently. And we had a great conversation, and it's mostly all around Instagram. So if you're interested in Instagram and what it might be able to do for your business and what role it plays for him and his business there, check out this interview. I really appreciate him taking time out of his day and meeting with me, sitting down together for a little bit of time in his offices there in Denver, Colorado. So Rodeo Adventure Labs, Stephen Fitzgerald, a lot of fun. I was intimidated, but what I learned, don't doubt yourself. Do the work, do the research. The payoff will follow. Ride on, ride safe. Thank you, Stephen, and I hope you enjoyed the interview. What is the role of the internet to your business?
For us, it's super central to what we do because we almost started on the internet in a way, and it sort of came into existence because of the internet. Because I got on social media and I got on Instagram maybe in 2012. I spent a lot of time making fun of it in the early days. Like, I'm definitely never getting on that. That's so dumb. And then I finally downloaded it and started using it. And my goal was just to take a picture of every ride that I went on, just one picture from every ride. And I did that for a couple of years. And, when you do something consistently and you're sort of hashtagging and doing all these things, that you start sort of running into other people that like what you like, and you see that there's a community on there and people all over the world, not just in Denver, and sort of built momentum into just understanding that you can network and create friendships or community or whatever it is online, which was new to me. And as it grew, I was on a race team in Denver racing road bikes, and I realized this is so small. It's so small just to ride with people in Denver and go to the same crits every year. And I don't want to belittle that too much because it was very fun. But in terms of, I guess, what's possible, it wasn't a lot of what's possible. It was just what everybody's been doing for decades. And there came a point on that team where I was pushing the team more towards, let's tell our team story online. I'm not sure what for, because we were amateurs, but that seemed to be the goal, was just get more sponsors. And to do that, you relate what you're doing well and you tell your story really well. And so we did that, and we got a sponsor that was so big, they sort of pushed me out of the team because they took over, which I guess was a success, but it was my demise. So the team was happy. And then I left and just thought, if someone wants to control the whole team, I want to leave and be on my own. And I took a couple of months and just said, maybe it's time to just start something completely from scratch around the idea that nobody can tell us what to do, and we can tell our story to anyone who cares to watch or listen. And that's what Rodeo was on day one, was, hello world, we're here. We have no idea what we're doing, but we really like riding bikes, and we're going to figure it out as we go. And there's no roadmap or any of that. So what role did the internet have? It's just absolutely everything, because you can scroll our Instagram in particular all the way back. You would be scrolling a long time, but you can go all the way back to the first day on 2014 and see where we started. And just everything in the beginning, from like trying to design a logo and have core values and jokes and rides that we were going on just as a very small, like sub 10-person team in Denver. It's all just there, very raw. And then we made a jersey and, put the values up, which were just ride your bike however you want to ride a bike. It doesn't really matter. We're just here to have fun. And that's when the internet came into play. People started tweeting that out and saying, I really like what this team's about. I really like their kit. It has all these jokes on it. And then people started sort of from just everywhere. We started buying our kit from all over the world and sort of like forming little chapters in Germany. There was one, and Austria, and just all over. And so the internet amplified something that was incredibly tiny and small and unimportant, which was just friends riding bikes in Denver, but let us do it to an audience. And I think in that phase of Instagram, I don't know where it's at now, but it was all sort of very explosive. People, I think, were piling on in droves. And what do you do when you sign up? You're like, well, I like bikes, so let's go just hashtag cycling. And then we came up and yeah, it just took us, just swept us away.
So without the internet, you wouldn't be where you are.
No, we wouldn't exist at all. We absolutely wouldn't exist, period. And then we wouldn't really have grown or gone anywhere with it. We would have just been some friends in Denver riding bikes, which isn't actually a bad thing, but I like where we're at. Like, there's a company now and a bunch of employees that get to do bikes for a living, and a really, really big community of people who own our bikes.
It's a great vibe.
Yeah, I love my job. I love what rodeo's become.
Comes to communicating using the internet, what are the most important channels?
So I think about a lot, like, should we be doing a lot more than Instagram? Because social media platforms come and go. At least some of us, MySpace and even Facebook, honestly, as a platform is not what it once was when it was white hot. And I think that's got to happen for Instagram at some point, right? So we have too many eggs in one basket. But primarily, Instagram is 90% of where our effort is focused. And I don't think that that's a strategic, like, we're really so smart and there's a lot of thought behind that, other than that's what got us to where we are now. And it's worked really well for continuing to just talk directly to people who are interested. And it's visual. And what we do is visual. And you can see our Instagram embedded on our website. So it keeps the front page fairly active in terms of just new, interesting things to look at when you go look at the website. But mostly it's all Instagram. And I think that's just who we've always been. And so many people are still there. And that's all we need right now. So I do really have it. It's on my internal checklist to-do box is start a newsletter, because I want to build the ability to go around Instagram if and when they start putting in, too much algorithm, too much filtration, or they depreciate static images and now you have to be doing a dance and lip syncing to get anybody's attention. Like, could that be coming? Probably, maybe. And if we don't have a direct, and like an email conversation or some sort of thing, then that would be bad. We do also have the journal on our website, which of course, the blog, it's a blog, just we post when we have things to talk about there. And we've done that since the very beginning also. But those people are so different than Instagram people. To get someone to come to your website and then read anything longer than a caption is a pretty tall order, and probably in some ways not worth doing in terms of the effort that it takes. But it's just near and dear to, like, I love that. I love writing too much and putting big, indulgent pictures up. And it's just, it's ours. We can do whatever we want. So I think what that's done is it's taught me that there are people lurking that do read that. And they, when they get in touch and they go to buy a bike, they'll say, I really liked this bike that I saw 3 years ago, or I want it set up like you had it on that one ride that you guys had in the journal 2 years ago or 6 months ago. And then I realized, oh, there's people watching and reading, but they're just quiet. They're quiet people and they're content to lay low. And Instagram is this chatterbox of comments and retort back and forth and likes. You don't get any of that on a website. You just put it out there.
And you're happy if there's one like on your post, right?
And we turned off all Google Analytics and Facebook Pixel features and things on the website because I didn't want our users tracked. We don't look at engagement on the journal or where people are going through the site and where their mouse hovers and how much time they're spending on pages. It's just put it up, do it with conviction because you want it there and that's the story you want told, and then let the chips fall where they are. And that seems to be working pretty well.
So 2020, 21, you've suffered as well as many others through the global supply chain.
Yeah.
And its challenges there. And that's very visible on your Instagram channel as well.
Yep.
There's photos of people unboxing boxes and people going, yay, there's 3 frames.
Those are like proof of life videos. It's like a hostage situation.
It was born.
Yes. This really exists.
So you've got whatever the backlog of orders of customers out there and for pieces and bikes and the rest of that there. How are you communicating with them? It's probably not just the Instagram.
Yeah. So this has been a really big year for communicating with customers about what's going on. And we are learning to get better at that. We have started at just hot mess disaster and slowly grown towards, I don't know if we're exactly where we need to be, but we do a pretty decent job updating people with what I would call the most recent accurate information we can get. And I qualify that because that changes. Like we get that from our suppliers and then they change that information to us. But what I have learned is if you tell people what's going on, even if they're not going well, they need to know that you care, that they've, given you a deposit, and they need to know that you're not cutting and running, and they need to know that you actually care, that you're holding them up. And I feel like giving people information updates is a way to let them know you care. Another way to let them know you care is to the best of your ability, make sure someone answers the phone always. And I know we have some unanswered voicemails right now, so someone's probably out there yelling if they're listening to this. We hired someone this year, Isaac, who's just absolutely phenomenal, and picks up the phone and says, I hear you. He's just saying, we're right there in the middle of you with this. So we have an updates page that we update fairly frequently, and it's just rodeolabs.com/updates. And we break it down into categories of frames, forks, clothing, little tiny widgets. If you go back and read it, it's almost embarrassing because it is embarrassing because what it really is a case study in missed deadlines. Like there aren't actually a lot of those deadlines that we've made this year, but it is a history of communication, and it has always been honest. We have always put up information honestly about this is what we're being told now. These are the circumstances that we know we're up against. This is what we know right now. That's been enough to get through this year, I guess, for everybody, for customers and us. And if we had done none of that, I know we would just be getting the wrath of customers. Like, we're almost a customer service company. Yeah, we have been because, for the first 7 months of the year, we almost weren't delivering any 2021 bikes. We still had some 2020 and then we still had some bikes that were being refurbished, but we weren't delivering a lot of new product. And so all we were doing for the people who had bought the bikes from like November or December up until, June or July was stay in touch, keep communicating, customer service. That was our job for the entire start of the year. It was so weird. Still, that's not, by the way, this is not the company that I want to run. I want to get you your bike like within weeks of ordering it. We're not a walk in and buy a bike and leave company, but we could be a show up, talk, to work through what you want, and then build it within a reasonable amount of time so that you can go do the grinder you signed up for in a month or two, that kind of company.
You are inherently a customer service oriented company because you offer to the hilt customized options.
Yes.
I read that if a customer wants something that you can't source and they can source it, they can get it, send it, bring it to you, and you'll if it fits, you'll make it work and deliver it. That's a huge risk and opening up of you're going to have to communicate in a lot of different directions.
It's not efficient and it probably is bad business. And in my dreams, I would say we have you can get a pre-configured bike from us very quickly, and if you choose to, you can color outside of the lines with us, and we're super happy to meet you there too. I would love to have both because there is something beautiful about, like when someone buys a Spork and we just have to put it in a box and that's it. And everybody's happy. It's just so nice. But we would not be true to ourselves if we cut and run and started doing only pre-configured bikes. Like rodeo is interesting because there's this happy mess of making really nuanced, interesting bikes. So it's always going to be part of it.
How did Instagram become this crazy place on rodeo that, like I mentioned earlier, people are sending you or they're tagging you in their posts and you're reposting that yourself? And I was very intimidated because that's not the crowd that I hang out with. I bike all the time, but I'm more of a cross country and not let's climb the mountain barefoot and with a donkey. And how did that come about? Was that just by chance, or did you actively promote it?
The rawness of rodeo is where we started, and I don't think we've ever left that behind on purpose. And you look at other brands, like a really mainstream brand, and they have really scripted, well-planned, well-executed marketing, and they have beautiful pages that you can go to and see beautiful things. It's well done, but it's also kind of scripted and sterile, and I don't think it invites a lot of people to interact with it. You're like, here's the thing we want to show off, and now we're going to move on to the next one. And we're a lot more conversational than that. And in some ways, like maybe our bar for photography isn't that high. Like we won't only post an 8 out of 10 or above photo. Sometimes like it could be a 4 out of 10 photo, but what's happening in the photo is just so fun that like without apology, we're going to share what somebody took the time to send because it's just so exciting. Like when, JJ did this mountain bike race on his donkey and it was just a terrible idea. And he sent us all these photos of it and we had to celebrate that. And then that's a cultural statement when we do that. We're about bad ideas and very get in over your head experiences. And JJ did it, and we're going to celebrate that. And the sort of the comment section, we read everything. I run it. I can't delegate it because I need the autonomy to say things that I could get in trouble for, but I own it, so I can't get in the same kind of. But if I were to give it to Isaac, I think Isaac would say, I don't know if I'm allowed to respond to that or even what to say. Whereas I know exactly what I want to say, and I know that maybe 10% of the people won't like what I have to say. And I'm like, that's okay. This is Rodeo Labs. We're going to speak with our voice, and we're coming right back and replying or joking. And I think it just makes it more human and less prepackaged and scripted. And I think that's inviting. If you say something on a company's or a brand's page with the expectation that it will be read and responded to, maybe in jest, or, we'll all be telling a joke together, that's just a way more fun way to interact. So, but there's no genius or like anything behind that other than it's just fun to do. Yep. It's just fun to do. And we've been doing it that way. Yeah. It's just raw. It's
keep on doing it. You've got, I was going to say user groups. You've got rodeo fans around the country and probably around the world that meet up for donkey rides and things like that. How does that happen?
Oh man,
have you instigated some of those yourself?
Some of them. I mean, the number one shining example of that happening would be the rides that Mike organizes in Georgia. He's in Georgia, but he's very sort of near and dear to the core of rodeo. He's actually, his name's Donkey Slayer, and he's a guy that can break a donkey. So we recruited him to be a test rider to find out, like, how are you breaking this bike, and can we revise it and make one strong enough that you won't break? And then he started coming on some of the trips that we would have in Colorado. We get to know him a little bit better, and he loves rodeo. He understands what we're about, and he wants that to happen in Georgia where he's at. So he's started, organizing his own rides, and it's an interesting gray area because they're rodeo rallies. He calls them rodeo rallies, and we have these conversations about how difficult should you make these, and how do we make sure you're covered in terms of liability, and you're inviting 20 people but 60 people show up, and then what do you do? He's the most prolific ride organizer. The shop in Philly, Paper Trail, really sort of got up to speed with them this year, and I knew Paul, the owner, and we did a podcast with them, but they managed to get a demo fleet of Flanimals this year out of us, and then they just put that fleet to work, and they said, we have 8 bikes or 6 bikes, whatever it is, and we want people to be riding them nonstop. So they started hosting rides, and when I see that, Like, everybody needs to know about this. So we reshare what they're doing in Philly. Like, look at these rides. They've got, people on every different brand from just seemingly every different walk of life coming on these rides. There's no way we can't get excited about that and say, everybody, if you're anywhere on the East Coast, you got to hit one of these Philly rides. I guess they're like not super users, but they're special people that catch the vision and want to run with it. And that's not everybody. And it's a ton of work. But the people who do it, I guess, generally kind of drift closer to the center of what rodeo's doing, what it's all about, and we create tighter and tighter relationships.
So they identify with the brand or with the idea.
Yeah, some come and go. Like, there was a very strong group of 8 riders in Germany, and some Americans, some Germans, and they did some amazing things and sent back reports. And then, they all some of them started moving back to America, and the group kind of got more diffuse. And, so they come and go. The Posse, the women's community here in Denver, they started last year, and momentum ebbs and flows with how busy they get and can they organize group rides every Wednesday night. But that's the most fun part of watching it grow. Is in the beginning, I had to do everything. I had to write every post and take every picture and organize every ride. But when you start to see that it's running on its own and there are people out there doing the thing, and like when I read the story, I'm just an audience member. I'm not like the person, I'm not conducting or anything. That gets really fun. Race reports, watching Jay and Jacob in Kyrgyzstan, and you're like, wow, look at how big this has gotten.
2014, and it's turned into this.
But it turned into this. I mean, I didn't have that big of an imagination in 2014. It kind of grows in the direction that it wants to go. And I guess I have to guide it, and the ends have to justify the means or something like that. Like, it takes a tremendous amount of time. So I do some steering a little bit, and I do some pruning on like what we can commit resources towards. Like I'm helping, I gave, put Evan on assignment. That was something that we chose to do and put our resources in. The same with Jay in Kyrgyzstan and Jacob. So we do sort of put our resources behind things like the team and the women's squad. But that generally happens when you see people working really hard and they've got vision, and you realize, all they need is resources to just really do this bigger and better. And so we kind of get behind and push. So
if you had some more time, more to spend on your idea, your vision here for Rodeo Labs, what would you focus on? Would it be enlarging the team here? Would it be making more videos, putting out more content? Would it be designing new bikes?
Well, there would be a couple of things. We would definitely continue to build out a roster of supported riders, because there are more people doing really interesting things, and I can't sort of sponsor and support everybody that I would like to. So I would definitely put more resources there. And the people who can tell a story are the people who catch my eye or do something really sort of ambitious and amazing. I love just watching that. They don't have to win. They just have to be like, wow, look what you did. So more of that. Yes, I would do more film work. That's particularly resource intensive. To shoot and edit is just 100 times more complicated than taking a picture. So that would be on the, I guess, adventure end of it. And then in terms of the products and the things that we make, we are working on building the foundations for manufacturing and developing products that are made in Denver. Most of everything we do is in Taiwan. And if anything, 2021 has taught me is that the world's too fragile and it's so far apart. So we've been putting work into building relationships. We don't have that expertise built in yet. And so the next hire we will do here at Rodeo will be a lead engineer for building out a manufacturing capability. And so he will be an engineer, he'll be a team builder, or she, and we'll say, Denver, Colorado, what's something that we can start with? I don't know, could we make an accessory, a bike packing thing, a bottle cage, something that we can put our twist on and do it here and learn, and then get a little bit more ambitious with, I don't know, maybe we'll make forks here next. And then, maybe we'll make frames here. And maybe the first frames that we make will be like a Tesla Roadster, where, you got to start with the 6-figure car just to learn how to make a car. So it's tough because we have way more ideas than we have resources, and we only really do what we can pay for really out of pocket. So we're a bootstrap cash flow company. We're not a go get a bunch of investors and then just scale quickly type of company.
So I have one standard question I ask all my guests.
Okay.
What does innovation mean to you?
Innovation is staying restless and pliable and being willing to do the work, to learn something new and expand your skill set, your ability. I think our bikes came from moments of inspiration. You know, the Trail Donkey came from riding a cross bike on a mountain bike trail, and I needed a better bike. And that was the moment of inspiration. And then I think it was innovative. It wasn't the only sort of gravelly drop bar bike at the time, but it became innovative because the inspiration hit. And then I did the work to say, white sheet of paper, what would this bike look like if I was creating a bike for this instead of adapting a bike for it? So it's understand the point of inspiration and then apply the resources and the willpower to it to see it into fruition. So, all right, the inspiration is we want to be more ambitious with our riding. That requires a better bike. The brand's in a good spot. It's time to make a new mountain bike. But do we want to photocopy everybody else's designs? Or do we want to say, like, how does Rodeo see the mountain bike? And how do we apply our values to the mountain bike? That doesn't mean we will create an entirely new bike, blow everybody's minds, something they've never seen before. But I think we have a white list, just a list of things that we've thought of for that bike and then future iterations of our other bikes. And I know we have innovative ideas on that list of, you know, I'll sit here with Drew and Cameron will come upstairs from assembling bikes and we'll talk about, is there a better way to do this thing that we're doing right now that's frustrating you when you build the bike? Yes, there is okay, well, we need to innovate. Why isn't anybody else doing it? Should we not do it because nobody else is doing it? The rest of the industry seems to be pretty content with the way that it works right now. And you could take that as a reason not to do something, or you could say, I don't care what anybody else is doing. There's an opportunity here. And there's an opportunity to fail here too. And that's okay. So maybe innovation takes a little bit of that too. Like, failure is an option. Maybe we're going to hit a lot of dead ends and waste resources or time. But occasionally lightning strikes and you're like, oh man, that's fresh. I'm really excited. People are going to enjoy that. So,
wow. Well, thank you, Stephen, for your time here in Denver, Colorado. I'm on my tour. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and talking with us here. And all the listeners to the podcast, as it is in the show notes below, you see links to Rodeo Adventure Labs, their bikes, and at some point, an innovative, perhaps mountain bike in the soon future. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you. I love your setup.